I am preparing the delicious, beautiful, well-renowned sauerkraut, well-renowned in the world of fermentation. It's actually what got me started in my fermentation journey. Roughly about 5 years ago, here and there, I would ferment cabbage and also preserved lemons. But in 2026, I really decided to take a deep dive in the art of fermentation, and I just really, really love it. So much so that I have invested in some things, some tools, but you really don't need that much to get yourself started. I definitely didn't start with all of this. I just started with a jar, some salt, and some veggies, and that's about it. But like I say, I got so much, I'm in love with this. I'm fermenting just about everything in my house that I did invest in some things. But to make sauerkraut, then you obviously will need cabbage. You will also need a jar. Like I say, just a simple jar. This is jars that I recycle from when I buy tahine or that kind of stuff. You will need a knife, obviously a sharp knife to be able to cut your veggies. Some scales so that you can weigh out the vegetables and also the salt. And then also some labels to label your jar so that you know what you're doing. And here I also have a pestle just to really pack everything down. But again, it's not necessary at the beginning. I didn't start with that, just, using any tools like a fork or whatever, or a spoon. And also some tongs, again, not essential. And I also have some weight to keep everything down and submerge. But you could also use, here I have one of the outer leaves. You can also use that to put on top of the cabbage. And obviously, like I say, this is probably the most well-renowned fermented veggies out there. But I've been fermenting again everything about the kitchen sink in my house, and I will show you. This is what I have currently going in terms of my fermented experiments. Some of them are experiments, but most of them is something that I just yeah, got into. This is the latest one. This one is new. This is courgettes, turmeric roots, and also the tops of beets with some lemon in brine. But I'm also making yogurt. I have apple cider vinegar. This is also what started my journey. Some chilies here to make chili sauce, preserved lemons. I'm making 2 jars actually because it's so good. I don't like to run out. And this experiment actually grapefruit and salt just to get to make a probiotic drink. So, and here I have carrots and garlic just to show you you can really like ferment anything and everything, and it's just the most beautiful thing. Like I say, I am personally in love with that. Just to give you some inspiration, it's not just about the good old sauerkraut. There are so many possibilities. It's endless. So for my sauerkraut, I have 350 grams of cabbage. I always weight what I'm using because of the salt ratio. I'm doing the dry salted method for this. I will show you when I get to that. So I have salt, and I like to put peppercorns and cloves in my sauerkraut. You can really experiment and put anything that you like. But for this one, this is what I'm going to be doing. But first thing is I want to chop this quite finely so I can macerate it in the salt. And I'm getting rid of any bits, like here, for example, that are not looking healthy. And like I said, I took out the outer leaves, that also were a bit funky. So now I'll just cut this in very fine slices. Now I'm just going to transfer the cabbage into a dish. And for this batch of sauerkraut, I am doing a 3% ratio of salt. Now, at the beginning, I was winging it a lot, not weighing anything because I'm not a fan. I just like to go with the flow. But I've come to learn that it does matter. Like, you really want to yeah, start to work out, the ratio of salt, because it will affect obviously the fermentation, the way, the crunchiness of the veggies depends also on the temperature outside. Currently, it is summertime where I am. That comes early, so it's 35 degrees Celsius outside. So when it is hotter, obviously the fermentation process is a lot shorter, and you might want to add more salt because of that, just to counter the effect. It depends how long you want to ferment your veggies or fruits. I don't plan to be fermenting this for too long, so I'm just doing 3%, usually 2 to 3% of dry salted method is what works for sauerkraut on the broad scale. So I'm going to measure out. So I have 350 grams of cabbage. So a 3% ratio of salt is 10.5 grams. So I'm just going to measure that. Here we go, 11, it's okay. And basically, I'm just going to put the salt on top of all this. And right now, I'm not going to do too much apart from just helping the salt through. And also, obviously, salt is what helps to maintain the bad bacteria away. So you do want to have enough salt for your fermentation, right? Anything below 2% really, if you want a long-term fermentation, is not really going to work, especially in hot weather. So I'm going to let this sit for 24 hours, but I have another one because I love sauerkraut so much. I have already one that I have prepared yesterday, so you can see now how much, but this one is a 5% ratio, because I'm going to let this sit for a lot longer. This one I will have a little bit sooner, but I like to have things on hand. And also, depending on how long you let it sit, it's going to have a different flavor. The depth is going to change, right? That's why I also love the art of fermentation, because you really can fine tune the flavors that you want to get. So I would recommend, right, with the labels, that's why you want to label things, labeling the dates, what you're using. I tend to put the weight because sometimes I forget, and also what I'm using in terms of salt, just so that I have a recipe book. Basically, I also have a notebook where I write down everything that's works, so to speak, because it might work, but then depending on the seasons, so it's never really I don't want to say it's not an exact science, but it might change depending on the season. Anyhow, so this has been sitting for 24 hours. I'm going to wash my hands. And it has given out a lot of liquid. Look at that. Absolutely amazing. I love it so much. So once you have that you have everything like a lovely brine, this is going to be transferred into a jar. I have my sterilized jar. Important to take that step. Literally just putting some boiling water in the jar and let it sit, and that takes care of everything. But you do want to sterilize what you are using. So I'm going to go ahead and transfer this. And this is when the pestle comes handy in terms of packing everything tight, because obviously you don't want any air or as little air as possible in the jar. And basically I'm just going to keep going, layering the cabbage and then adding a few peppercorns and some cloves. Just continue this process of layering and packing everything tight. Okay, so this is my jar filled up with the cabbage. I'm just going to put the leftover brine. You want the obviously the cabbage to be completely submerged in the brine. And usually I would get a jar that would be fitting the size of the plant material, but it's okay also if there is the space. You just want to make sure that everything is submerged. So if you don't have enough of the brine, which I do here, but because it's very hot at the moment, it tends to evaporate, right? So I'm just going to add some filtered water, and I'm also gonna use my weight if I can find it. Here it is, also sterilized. So this is the coffee with the weight, just keeping everything down. And I'm just gonna add, like I said, just a little bit of water. Now the last thing left to do for this is to put a label on it with the date. So today is the 26th of May. I am now all set with this jar. It is nicely labeled and ready to be left alone. With this one, I probably let it sit on my shelf, not a countertop, because I don't have space. I have so many things going in terms of fermenting. For a few months, I reckon, because yes, I wanted to try this out with a 5% salt ratio. Definitely the time that this takes for me to consume this one I will let sit for a couple of weeks to a month. But like I say, it's all about experimenting. I do like my fermented food on the salty side. I'm very, very much a savory person, so I don't mind a high level of salt. But it takes on a completely different taste also. Obviously, you don't want to go overboard. But yes, so it's really entirely up to you to play around with the salt ratio, taking into account, again, the time of year, the temperature in your home, all of that good stuff. I want to mention one more thing. I won't do this with this jar because it's not filled to the top. But if you have a jar where it's right to the top with the liquid, you might want to sit this on the plate just in case during the first few days of fermentation, some of the liquid comes out. I have done before to burp it just to open the lid like after 2 or 3 days. I don't do that anymore just because I just want to let it rest unopened. So I usually just put it on a plate. But I won't, like I said, I won't do this with this jar because it's not filled up to the top. But I just wanted to mention that. It has been 24 hours for my second batch of sauerkraut. I just wanted to show you the method with just using a leaf if you want instead, if you don't have a weight. And I also have to say, at the beginning, I did it many times without putting anything because it's quite packed. So the liquid, is easily covered. But I'm just going to show you anyway. And also this one, I'm adding some bay leaves and coriander. The other thing I was saying, you can really put whatever you like in your sauerkraut. So it has reduced quite a lot. I have quite a bit of brine. It's going to be good. And I've also changed my label because I realized actually I labeled it wrong. So it's already labeled. This is the 3% ratio of salt, and the other one was 5%. So I'm going to go ahead and put everything in my jar, and I will show you with the cabbage leaf. Okay, everything is packed in there. You can see I have the brine is covering the cabbage. I'm now going to put the leaf, the outer leaf. I might just cut that. And basically that's it. You can just put this over it. And now everything is covered, and just the added protection of the cabbage leaf to prevent, well, any molding if it's going to happen, but it's really unlikely. It's never happened to me. Like I've never had any molding happen in all the times that I've been fermenting or making sauerkraut. But, it's, yeah, just to show you another option if you don't have any weight. Today is the 31st of May, and I prepared this sauerkraut on the 26th of May. And I just wanted to show you the lovely bubbles that are happening at the top, which is what you want to look for, the signs of the fermentation. And this happens in the first few days, and then it will start dying down. Like I say, this one is the 5%, so I will keep it going for quite a few weeks, months. But you can also, after a certain amount of time, if you want, you can open the jar and taste and see when it's ready for you. If you're unsure how long you should keep the sauerkraut or whatever you're fermenting, right? It really depends. But I just wanted to show you this, yes, the beautiful process of fermentation. Today is the 10th of June, and I prepared my sauerkraut on the 26th of May. I'll put it in the jar on the 26th of May. So it's been a little bit over 2 weeks. I am going to open it and taste it. Smells really nice. And as you can see, the brine stayed over the cabbage leaf. And I was saying that I've seen the water sometimes, so to speak, dry out, and I believe that it was because of the heat and evaporating the brine, and I still believe that it plays a part in it. But I've also found out that apparently it kind of happened where I can't remember exactly the process, but just as the fermentation continues, then the cabbage draws out more liquids. So essentially, it doesn't ruin the fermentation, and you don't really need to add once it's put in the jar, right? I added a little bit of liquid before closing my jar. It's important to mention. But if you see that it gets sucked in by the cabbage, to not add water or brine, because it affects the pH. Apparently, this is what I was reading about. And it's something that happens naturally. It's happened to me before when it looked like it was below, there was no brine left, and I left it, and when I opened it to eat it, it was absolutely fine. So yeah, but from what I found out, not to add liquid thereafter after you've already started the fermentation is not a good idea. Anyway, side note over, I'm going to try it. It looks beautiful and smells delicious. Just going to remove a little piece of the laurel leaf here. I think you can hear how still crunchy it is. And the salt ratio is perfect. Really delicious. Lovely. Like the coriander and the bay leaf. Excuse me for speaking with my mouth full. It's absolutely delicious. Really happy with that. Super happy. And yeah, happy sauerkrauting.